Hey guys, well, I'm here to bring you what's probably going to be the last flea market finds episode of 2020. Might get some other pick videos in if I luck out and end up being able to, snag any estates or anything like that, or something along those lines. But as far as actual flea market picks, this past November 6th, actually it was 6th and the 7th. This was the Thompson International Speedway in Thompson, Connecticut annual swap meet. I forgot what the heck, they get a name for it. I forgot what the heck it's called because somebody sponsors it or whatever. Anyways, in the past, this has been a great show for me to pick. I've really enjoyed it. I usually would go early on Saturday morning and get some really good deals. This year, I decided to do something different, anticipating that there might be some good picking to be had there. I actually opted for paying admission for the Friday, which is kind of interesting because it's weird because they don't really let the hours that they publicize that they say they'll have general admission for the public are pretty much the same hours as for the dealers. So if you go too early, you can get in there, but a lot of dealers aren't even setting up yet, or they've just coming in, and a lot of dealers haven't come in. So it's kind of a weird thing. So I ended up going mid-afternoon and ended up staying. And the other interesting thing was that they were saying that it was open till 8 p.m. It was now, this time of year here in New England, because of the daylight savings time, it's already getting dark by 4:30. So it was already getting dark, but they have lights there, so they could turn the lights on. But the thing is, all the dealers there were already pretty much figuring that the crowd wasn't there anymore by 6 o'clock, and were already shutting down and going to supper and not planning on coming back out. And a lot of them just left their stuff out, covered on tarps or whatever. A lot of them just left their stuff out there, which I'm going to get to that in this episode. And, so I picked a few things on that day, on that Friday, and then I went back on Saturday and I picked a few more things, but didn't really come across that much new stuff that had come in after Friday. In other words, dealers who came in on Saturday morning, that kind of thing. Or dealers who had their stuff covered up and didn't end up really officially opening for sale until Saturday morning. And I talked to one dealer who had some machinist items that I bought a couple of things from him, and he said, this is not a good show. He said, last year, he said he sold out most of his stuff on the first day, machinist related stuff. He said this year, the machinist stuff sat there. And that actually worked out to my advantage because I looked at stuff at his place on his spot on Friday night that I passed on because of pricing. And then I went back on Saturday. It was, Saturday afternoon. It was still sitting there. Was able to cut some deals. Got a couple of items off of him. So let's without further ado, let's jump into this and see what I end up scoring. So on day one, I was in there walking around for hours, going over and over and over numerous tables, looking for stuff, seeing if new stuff was being put out and everything. And I'm just looking now and realizing that I ended up picking a total of 5 items. Bought 5 items for all that time wasted. And, a $15 admission fee. $15 at the gate to get in. A lot of the dealers were complaining about that because they were thinking, if they didn't charge so much to get in, maybe more people would come in. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But then again, you could say that by having a higher gate fee, maybe only the really serious buyers are coming in. The problem is there weren't as many dealers there this year, and the crowd was also down because of COVID. So you had a perfect storm of low dealers, low inventory, low buyers. So what are you going to do? All right, so this is the first item that I bought. There's actually these are the first 2 items I bought. I put the other one in here. So I'll put this off to the side for a second. So this is the first item that I bought. I got off of this guy. I asked him if he knew what it was, and he said he didn't know. So this is interesting. This actually says Last Word Sales Company of it says 18,500 Mount Elliott, Detroit, Michigan. All right, so this is old as hell by the looks of it, right? But I've seen this last word name on something else. I mean, everybody knows the last word indicator by Starrett. This has absolutely nothing to do with Starrett. But I've seen this last word name on, I think, some grinding jigs or something, some kind of precision fixtures. So I look in it, and he has no idea what it is. I start looking at it and realize I think it's probably missing some pieces, and I still don't know what this is. And I haven't been able to determine what it is. So take a look at it here. So what we got is, we've got a, on the side here, it says Gray Grimes Steady Rest. Last Word Sales Company, Model 7. Okay? So see, Gray Grimes Steady Rest. All right, so is Gray Grimes another machine or something that this is made to be used with? So we've got what appears to be the ability to clamp on, and this looks like it's custom made by somebody to maybe fit their machine. This bar right here, okay. And then we've got a, well, it's not really a T-nut. It's interesting. Then over here we have what appears to be the lever to control it, okay. And moving this lever rotates this wheel, which we've got an eccentric here, not unlike myself. In other words, the moment of rotation is not in the center here. So what that does is that creates somewhat of a cam effect, I guess. So it looks like as I rotate this lever and move this throughout its range, that this top edge might be able to interact with something that might have been stuck down inside here. I don't know. There's just this, for lack of a better term, cap, which oddly enough, it's not threaded or anything, so I have no idea what that was supposed to go on. And then there's a couple of attachments in here. You got a little V-rest. All right, so we got this little itty bitty rest, then a larger one, then there's this thing, which is a threaded stud, can be adjusted. Oh, and look, it's got a little tiny one of these things on it. So if I'm getting the gist of how this works here, I'm guessing maybe the idea is this is made to pop off. Okay, yeah, this is made to pop off of here. So this is interchangeable. All right, so there's 3 holes in here. So oh, that's good. So it looks like all 3 of these are present, right? So then this goes where? On this thing. This is where I think there's something missing. I think there might have been something that went in here that maybe this threaded into. So this might be completely useless with the pieces that, you know, it might be missing enough pieces that makes this thing completely useless. So I kind of looked at it, I thought about it, I was intrigued by it, but I didn't really get into the price on it because I was worried that it was going to be too much. Then I came along, I went down his, you know, he had end mills and all kinds of cutters and stuff like that, but nothing I wanted to get involved with. I was more focusing on the stuff he had that he didn't really identify, so he couldn't place a high value on it. I picked this thing up, and he had no idea what this was also, and neither did I. But what caught my eye is that it's hardinge. So I'm like, oh, okay. Thinking to myself, well, if you can buy something with the name hardinge on it cheap enough, you buy it. So I asked him about pricing, and he said he wanted 15 for this, and he wanted 5 for this. So 20 for the 2. And I actually got him to take 15 for the 2. So I figure I'm into this for $10 and I'm into this for 5. Now, this, I would love to know what this is. This lever doesn't want to move. I think it's probably supposed to. So I would say that maybe it's, I don't know if it's seized up from age. So if anybody knows what that is, I would love for you to comment and let me know, because I've already searched like just random hardinge stuff and couldn't find anything. Well, somebody's got one of these on eBay right now, and it's missing more pieces than this. They want $70 for it, and they don't appear to know what it is. they're saying it's a steady rest for a Brown and Sharp lathe, question mark. So I severely doubt that it's for a Brown and Sharp lathe. It says steady rest, so it kind of makes sense that it would be, you know, for a lathe. And it looks to me like you could put this right over one of the ways on a lathe. And that's what this strange shaped piece here, this clamp would work. You could clamp this on one of the ways on a lathe. Okay. And of course, a steady rest is to support long work if you're turning. So, I mean, I guess that's where like these come in. So this is gonna clamp on like this, and this is gonna sit like this underneath the piece that you're turning and support it. So unfortunately, searched high and low and can't really find any information. I guess apparently there was a book or a catalog by this company that was out at some point that actually, you know, showed these tools. But I could find a record of the book, but I can't find a copy of it online anywhere. Oh, wait a minute. It's funny, this isn't threaded, but it has a little nub in there. Oh, so maybe the threading on this part is only to allow this wheel see, in other words, this is your adjustment. Okay. And then I wonder if this goes in here like that. This might be complete after all. Might be as simple as that. Huh. Alright. But before we move on, I just want to take one last look at this this device here, this hard-inch piece. So what I was able to find out was that if you loosen these two set screws, you see the handle moving? You notice that it actually moves this top piece, allows it to swivel on this axis. So by moving the handle, you can actually make this swivel like this, which has the effect of offsetting this axis with this axis. So in other words, you can either have it in this position here. This is probably lined up perfectly with this. And then when you loosen the set screws and move the handle accordingly, and it's spring loaded too. Alright, so let's move on. And these next two items I bought from the same dealer, and I was able to pull them together and get him to take $25 for these two items here. And I actually think I even still overpaid for these because, well, first is this Brown and Sharp micrometer. It's actually a pretty nice little micrometer. It does have carbide faces. The lock works. And it's a tense micrometer, so it's actually a nice little micrometer. The case isn't so great. Even the friction thimble works. So that's good. The part I think I overpaid for is this Mitutoyo Indicator. I decided I wanted to take a chance on it. It looks pretty clean. It's got this unusual large foot on it. So it probably was on a comparator stand or a dial indicator stand. The problem is when you push it up, it hangs in the same spot almost every time. So something's not right there. I'm hoping that it's just gummed up inside there. The other possibility is the rack could be bent in that section, and if that's the case, then it's pretty much junk. So just notice this screw right here looks like it's partially backed out. It's interesting, it looks like it's partially out, but it's actually still tight, so I don't know what's going on there. Well, it looks like it's the right screw, so. Well, that's interesting. That's working perfectly fine now with the back off. Is it because the back's off, or is it because it's upside down? It is because it is upside down. So although it's definitely getting better. So what did we do? That is really weird. It's almost like something just got, maybe there was something stuck on a tooth or something that just got dislodged, because this just started working perfectly. And all I did was take this back off. So the only thing I noticed is that down in this channel right here, there's this white crud, almost like the remnants of corrosion, like maybe this had gotten wet or with water or coolant at some point. That coincides with the staining that I can see right here. So I'm wondering if there was some crud in there that had become dislodged when I took the cover off. Otherwise, this looks perfect in there. I'd like to take this central rod out and clean it, and clean that groove right there. But it looks like in order to do that, you take this top piece off, and that'll allow this rod to move far enough down so that this small rod comes into view here in this notch. Rotate this up so this rod is facing up, so that this rod can be unscrewed from this rod. Remove this spring, and then you'd have to remove this little peg that the spring attaches to slide that rod out. It's just going to be a whole lot more involved than I want to be with this thing. So I'm going to leave this alone. I mean, right now it's working perfectly. It's even clocked correctly. Notice if I bring the large needle up to 0, the secondary pointer is also at 0 on the secondary dial. And I don't want to mess up that. So, although as long as I didn't take this bracket off, I probably wouldn't end up doing it. But again, you know, I've run into this before where start with the best of intentions and then end up just destroying something. I was able to solve the mystery as to why this screw was proud of the backing plate here, even though it was tight. The head of the screw was actually not going into the countersunk hole on the backing plate. And upon further examination, the reason why is because this drilled and tapped hole from the factory is not perfectly straight. It's off a little bit. So the screw basically, as it goes in, it's tilted. I'm exaggerating it here with the screwdriver, but it's tilted just a little bit. So all I had to do was keep the other 3 screws loose and tighten this down with the backing plate able to float, and it dropped in and is working just fine. Now I can just tighten these other 3 screws and it'll be perfect. But I have no reason to believe that that isn't something that was an original factory defect that just ended up not being an issue upon initial assembly, so they just let it go out that way. But this is working perfect now. So I've got another thousandths indicator to add to my my hoard of indicators, which I have pared down substantially over the past couple of years through sales. But I don't know. I might keep this one for now. And that brings us to the final item from day 1 of picking at the Thompson Speedway swap meet. Another dealer, really didn't have many machinist items, had this sitting there. And notice it says a Bryant gauge, B-R-Y-A-N-T. And what's in here is a very interesting bore gauge. I've never seen one like this. So inside the top cover here, we've got a chart, and it clearly explains that this is by the Excello Corporation, 945 East Slater Street of Greenville, Ohio. And what this is this is a groove gauge. It's not really a dial bore gauge. I misspoke. It's a groove gauge. So this is really kind of neat. The chart here explains that given whatever range size you're trying to measure, you end up using these different, what they call styles of attachments. So I'll grab these larger ones out so you can get a good look at them. These are still in the original Cosmoline or whatever you call it. So it looks like these were never used. They're clearly marked on the bottom, Bryant XLO, and a part number. What you do is you choose the appropriate size and you install them on the bottom of the main gauge, so to speak, okay? And then you simply push on this. That brings the fingers together. You stick this down into the bore where your inside groove is, right? Here we can clearly see that this is a P21 model. So, oh yeah, so I ended up, the guy I think originally started at 50 bucks and I was able to get him down to 25 for this. This is a heck of a deal at 25 bucks. I didn't know it at the time, but I have since looked these up and they do still sell, and they are kind of pricey. And a lot of the ones that I saw online didn't have all of the attachments. Apparently these go missing, or it's not uncommon for these to go missing. So this one was in the bottom of the box, but it looks like it's the other half of this one here. Alright, so it took a couple of minutes to sort these out. This box is ingeniously designed so that these posts up in the lid have these with these cushions on them. Actually, when you close the box and you have everything in the correct position, it clamps down and holds all of these feet in their correct storage location. So this empty space here would be for the feet that are on there now. You can see the rubber with age has kind of melted and gotten stuck on some of the parts, but the gauge itself works perfectly. This looks just like a Starrett indicator, by the way. I wouldn't at all be surprised to find out that that isn't a Starrett indicator. Badged Bryant. So it looks like they call these feeler, these fingers here, they call them segments. So according to the chart here, to get all the different sizes that this can measure, there are 8 different segments that come with the kit, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and number 8 right here. So this looks like it's a complete set, which is great news for me. I don't remember what these go for online, but I want to say these trade for around 100 bucks or more. And actually the ones that I found that had previously sold, because it's not a very common item, I think that they may have been missing some of the parts. This is a pretty complete set. This is something that would be nice to hold on to, but I just think it's such a specialized tool and I'm going to use it so rarely that I think I'm going to end up just reselling it. Alright, so that's going to conclude day 1. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please hit the like button, and if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. And I hope you're going to come back and check out part 2 or day 2 of this pick.